The rotors were already spinning, 15 feet. That's how close he was. Briefcase in hand, phone in the other, another city, another Tuesday. The air smelled like jet fuel and heat. He almost didn't hear it. The sound, something off, a hitch, a drag, like metal grinding where it shouldn't. He paused, 1 second, then shook it off. He took a step forward. That's when she screamed, "Don't get in the helicopter!" A little girl, a red sweater, running full speed across the tarmac like her life depended on it. No, like his life depended on it. Security moved toward her. He raised his hand. "Wait." She stopped 5 feet away, breathing hard, eyes locked on his. "You can't get in that helicopter." Voice steady, certain, terrifying. "Because I saw them." The airstrip went silent, and for the first time in years he realized he'd stopped listening, and it almost cost him everything. The rotors were already spinning. Dante Cross stood 15 feet from his helicopter, briefcase in hand, scanning his phone. Another meeting, another city, another Tuesday that felt like every Tuesday before it. The pilot gave him the signal. Time to go. But then, something caught his ear. Not loud, not obvious, just off. The whir of the blades had a rhythm he'd heard 1,000 times. This wasn't it. There was a hitch, a drag, like something grinding where it shouldn't. He paused, 1 second, maybe 2. Then he shook it off. Helicopters make noise. That's what they do. He took a step forward. That's when he heard her. "Don't get in the helicopter." The voice tore through the air like a gunshot. Dante stopped cold. Everyone on the airstrip froze. A little girl came running from behind the terminal building. Small, maybe 8 years old. Black girl in a red sweater, sneakers pounding pavement, arms waving like her life depended on it. No, like his life depended on it. "Sir, don't! Please don't get in!" She wasn't crying. She wasn't hysterical. She was certain. Security moved toward her, but Dante raised a hand. "Wait!" The girl stopped 5 feet away, breathing hard, eyes locked on his. "You can't get in that helicopter," she said, voice steady, firm. "Something's wrong with it." Dante glanced at his pilot. The man looked confused. "Sweetheart," Dante said carefully. "Do you know me?" "No, sir." "Then how do you know something's wrong?" She pointed at the helicopter. "Because I saw them." The airstrip went silent except for the rotors. "Saw who?" Dante asked. "The men. Last night. They opened something under it, put something inside. Then they left." Dante's chest tightened. "What men?" "I don't know their names, but they didn't fix anything. They just closed it back up and walked away." The pilot's face changed. Dante looked at his head of security. "Shut it down." "Sir, we haven't shut it down." The rotors began to slow. The girl didn't move, didn't smile, didn't celebrate. She just stood there, watching, like she'd been holding her breath since last night. Dante crouched down to her level. "What's your name?" "Sky." "Sky, I need you to tell me everything you saw." She nodded. And for the first time in years, Dante Cross realized he'd almost made a decision he couldn't take back. The sound was wrong. He just hadn't been listening. They moved inside the terminal. Sky sat across from Dante at a metal table. Security flanked the door. His pilot stood by the window, arms crossed, staring at the grounded helicopter like it had betrayed him. Dante leaned forward. "Start from the beginning." Sky pulled her knees up to her chest. "My mom works night shift at the diner across the runway. I wait for her there. I sit by the window." "Every night?" "Every night." Dante nodded. "And last night?" "I saw a truck pull up, around 2 in the morning. 2 men got out. They had tools, flashlights. Did they say anything?" "Not loud enough for me to hear, but they weren't talking much. They knew what they were doing." The head of security, a man named Briggs, stepped closer. What did they look like? Skye thought for a second. One was tall. Beard. Dark jacket with a logo I didn't recognize. The other one was shorter. Bald. He kept checking his phone. Briggs wrote it down. And what did they do? Skye pointed toward the window. They opened a panel. Underneath, near the tail, the tall one reached inside. He pulled something out, looked at it, then put something else in. Dante's jaw tightened. You're sure? Skye's eyes didn't waver. I watched the whole thing. Took them maybe 10 minutes. Then they closed it up, got back in the truck, and left. Silence. Briggs looked at Dante. We need to check it. Now. Dante stood. Do it. 20 minutes later, Briggs came back. His face said everything. There's a device. Tucked behind the hydraulic line. Custom job. Wouldn't show up on a standard pre-flight. Dante felt his blood go cold. What kind of device? We don't know yet. Tech team's pulling it now. Dante turned to Skye. She was sitting quietly, hands folded in her lap like she'd been waiting for this confirmation all along. You saved my life, he said softly. Skye looked up at him. I just didn't want you to die. No smile, no pride, just truth. Dante crouched down again. How did you know to come here? To warn me? I asked my mom who flies out of here. She said a billionaire. I looked you up on her phone this morning, saw your picture. When I saw you walking toward it, she trailed off. I ran. Dante felt something crack open in his chest. Gratitude, shame, something deeper. This child had done what $1 million security team hadn't. She'd paid attention. Briggs cleared his throat. Sir, if she's right about the timing, we need to pull last night's footage. Dante nodded, but as Briggs left the room, Skye spoke again. Quiet, certain. There was a truck parked wrong, too. Dante froze. What? When they left, another truck was sitting by the fence, engine off, lights off, but someone was inside. She met his eyes. They were watching. By noon, it was over. Or so they said. The device had been removed. Bagged. Sent to the lab for analysis. The helicopter was grounded indefinitely. Federal investigators were on their way. Dante stood in the terminal watching crews sweep the aircraft one more time. Briggs approached with a tablet. We've upgraded your security detail. New protocols, new team. This won't happen again. Dante nodded slowly. Good. Briggs hesitated. Sir, we got lucky. If that kid hadn't been watching, I know. You should go home. Let us handle the rest. Dante looked past him, toward the corner where Skye sat with her mother. The woman held her daughter close, whispering something Dante couldn't hear. Yeah, Dante said. I will. But he didn't move. Something still felt wrong. An hour later, the terminal cleared out. Skye's mother had to get back to work. She thanked Dante 3 times, voice shaking, eyes wet. Skye just waved. Dante waved back. As they left, he noticed something. Skye had left her notebook on the table. He walked over, picked it up. The pages were filled with drawings, detailed ones, the airstrip, the helicopter, the fence line. And on the last page, a truck, parked at an angle, with a license plate number written underneath. Dante stared at it. She'd written it from memory. That night, Dante sat in his office. The city glowed below him. Everything felt normal again. Controlled. Safe. Briggs called. We pulled last night's footage. And? Silence. There's nothing. Dante frowned. What do you mean, nothing? I mean the cameras went dark, all of them. From 1:47 a.m. to 3:12 a.m. Perfect blackout. Dante's hand tightened around the phone. That's not a glitch. No, sir, it's not. Someone cut the feed. That's what it looks like. Dante stood up, pacing. So we have no proof? No faces? No truck? Nothing. We have the device, and we have Sky's testimony. A child's testimony. Briggs went quiet. Dante exhaled. What about the license plate? What license plate? Sky wrote one down, in her notebook. Said there was a second truck watching. Briggs paused. Send it to me. Dante snapped a photo and sent it. 30 seconds later, Briggs spoke again. Voice different now. Tighter. That plate belongs to a contractor. What kind of contractor? Aviation maintenance. They service half the private fleets in California. Dante's stomach dropped. They have access. Yes, sir, they do. The room felt smaller suddenly. Briggs, sir, this wasn't random. No, sir, I don't think it was. Dante looked out at the city. Bright, busy, unaware. Someone wanted this hidden. Briggs didn't argue. Dante hung up. He sat back down at his desk, opened his laptop, pulled up his schedule from the past 6 months. Every flight, every meeting, every deal. And slowly, a pattern started to form, one he'd been too busy to see. The lab report came back at 4 a.m. Dante hadn't slept. Briggs arrived at his house with a folder. No phone call, no warning. Just knocked on the door and walked in like the world had shifted overnight. Because it had. They sat in Dante's kitchen. Briggs opened the folder. The device wasn't a bomb. Dante blinked. What? It wasn't designed to explode. It wasn't designed to cause a crash. Then what was it designed to do? Briggs slid a photo across the table. It was a signal disruptor. Custom built, military grade. It would have disabled your GPS, your radio, and your emergency transponder all at once. Dante stared at the image. Meaning what? Meaning if you'd taken off, no one would have known where you were. No tracking, no communication, no distress signal. Dante's throat went dry. So I wouldn't have crashed. No, sir. I would have just disappeared. Briggs nodded slowly. Exactly. The weight of it hit him like a truck. They weren't trying to kill me. No, they were trying to erase you. Silence filled the kitchen. Dante leaned back in his chair, mind racing. If I disappear, what happens? Briggs didn't hesitate. Your company goes into emergency protocol. Your board takes over. Decisions get delayed. Deals get frozen. Or canceled. Or transferred. Dante looked up sharply. The aviation contract. Briggs met his eyes. You're 3 weeks from signing the biggest infrastructure deal in your company's history. If you're gone, someone else signs it. Who? Whoever's next in line. Dante stood up, pacing. This wasn't sabotage. No, sir. This was a takeover. Briggs closed the folder. That's what it looks like. Dante's mind went to work. The aviation contract wasn't just big, it was permanent. 15 years, locked in. Whoever controlled it controlled the future of private air travel on the West Coast. Billions of dollars, thousands of jobs, power that didn't expire, and someone wanted him out of the way. Not dead, just gone. They wanted me to vanish, Dante said quietly. No body, no wreckage, just missing. Search and rescue would have looked for weeks, Briggs added. By the time they gave up, the contract would have moved on. Dante clenched his fists. Who benefits? That's the question. No, that's the answer. He turned to Briggs. Pull every name attached to that contract, every competitor, every board member, every investor who'd profit if I wasn't in the picture. Already started. And the contractor, the one with the license plate Sky saw. We're tracing their work history now. Who hired them? Who paid them? Who had access to your flight schedule? Dante's jaw tightened. Someone inside. Briggs didn't deny it. It's looking that way. The words hung in the air like smoke. Someone Dante trusted had opened the tour. Someone close enough to know his movements. Someone who thought he wouldn't notice. Dante walked to the window. The sun was starting to rise. If Sky hadn't been watching, You'd be gone by now. Dante closed his eyes. A little girl saved my life because she paid attention. Yes, sir. And someone I know tried to take it. Briggs stood. We'll find them. Dante turned around. No. Briggs frowned. Sir? We don't just find them. Dante's voice went cold. We prove it. 2 days later, the pieces started connecting. Dante sat in a private conference room with Briggs and his lead attorney, a sharp woman named Kendra who didn't waste words. She spread documents across the table. This goes beyond you. Dante looked up. Explain. Kendra tapped the first page. Your aviation contract isn't just about helicopters or private jets. It's about infrastructure, air traffic corridors, licensing agreements, landing rights at 12 regional airports. I know what it is. Then you know it's permanent. Whoever controls this controls the next generation of regional air travel, not just in California, the whole West Coast. Dante leaned forward. How much are we talking? Conservative estimate? 12 billion over 15 years. Briggs whistled low. Kendra kept going. But here's what matters. If you die, the contract doesn't disappear. It transfers to your successor. Clean? Legal? No delays. And if I disappear? Kendra's eyes darkened. Then it gets complicated. The board has to declare you missing. That takes time. Weeks, maybe months. And while they're waiting, the contract sits in limbo. Until someone forces a decision. Exactly. Dante sat back. Who's in position to do that? Kendra slid another document forward. 3 names, all board members. All with competing bids that were rejected when you won the contract 6 months ago. Dante scanned the names. One jumped out immediately. Vince, Kendra nodded. Vince Mallory, your CFO. He was part of the original pitch team. He knows every detail of your deal. Dante's chest tightened. Vince had been with him for 8 years. Trusted, loyal, family dinners, golf trips, godfather to his daughter. Keep going. Mallory's company tried to win this contract 2 years ago. Lost to a smaller firm. That firm collapsed last year. You bought their assets and restructured the bid. You won. Vince helped me win. Or he positioned himself to take over when you couldn't. Silence. Dante's mind raced. If I vanish, Vince steps in. As interim CEO, yes. And the contract? Gets finalized under his authority. Dante clenched his jaw. But it wouldn't be his company anymore. Kendra shook her head. No. But the firm that lost the original bid? It's still operational. Quietly. Under a new name. And guess who sits on their advisory board? She slid one more document across. Dante read it. Then read it again. Vincent Mallory. He's on both sides. He's been on both sides the whole time. Briggs spoke up. If you disappear, he takes control of your company temporarily. He finalizes the contract under your name. Then 6 months later, he steps down, and the contract transfers to the other firm through a quiet buyout clause buried in the fine print. Dante's hands curled into fists. He doesn't just win. He erases me and takes everything. And no one would ever know. Kendra closed the folder. This wasn't sabotage, Dante. This was a plan, years in the making. Dante stood, walked to the window. The city stretched out below. Thousands of lives, millions of decisions, and one man willing to make him disappear for a signature. Where is he now? Briggs checked his phone. Office, like nothing happened. Dante turned around. Good. Kendra frowned. What are you thinking? Dante's voice went cold. I'm thinking he doesn't know I'm still here. And I want to keep it that way. 3 days after the helicopter incident, Dante went back to the airstrip. Not to fly. To watch. He stood near the terminal with Briggs, observing the daily operations. Crews, pilots, maintenance teams, everyone moving like clockwork. Then he saw her, Sky, sitting at the same window in the diner across the runway, notebook open, pencil in hand, watching. Dante crossed the tarmac and walked inside. The bell above the door chimed. Sky looked up. "Hi," Dante said. "Hi." He slid into the booth across from her. "You come here a lot?" Every day after school. Wait for my mom." Dante glanced at her notebook. "What are you drawing?" Sky turned it around. It wasn't a drawing, it was a map. The airstrip, the roads, the parking areas, every truck, every vehicle, times written next to each one. Dante stared. "You've been tracking them?" "Just noticing." "Noticing what?" Sky pointed to a sketch in the corner. "That truck comes every Tuesday and Thursday. Same time. 11:15. But last week it came on Wednesday. At night." Dante leaned closer. "The one with the logo?" "Yeah. What else?" Sky flipped the page. "This guy wears gloves, even when it's hot." She pointed to another sketch. "This one always parks facing out, like he's ready to leave fast." Another page. "And this logo," she tapped a drawing of a maintenance company emblem. "It's stitched wrong. The letters are backward." Dante felt his pulse quicken. "Backward? Like someone made a fake one." Briggs stepped closer, listening now. Sky kept going. "And yesterday there was a man by the fence. He didn't move. Everyone else walks around, talks, checks things. He just stood there for 20 minutes, watching your helicopter." Dante's jaw tightened. "Did you see his face?" "No, but he had a ring, big one, on his right hand. It caught the light." She sketched it quickly. Thick band, flat top. Briggs pulled out his phone and started typing. Dante looked at Sky. "Why do you notice all this?" Sky set her pencil down. "Because nobody listens to me." "What do you mean?" She met his eyes. "When people don't listen to you, you learn to watch everything. You see things they miss. You remember things they forget." Her voice was calm, matter of fact. "Adults look at me and see a kid. They think I don't understand. So they talk like I'm not there. They move like I'm not watching." She tapped her notebook. "But I am." Dante felt something shift inside him. This child had saved his life not because she was lucky, but because she'd been invisible long enough to see the truth. "Sky, has anyone ever told you that you're incredibly smart?" She shrugged. "My teacher says I ask too many questions." "Your teacher's wrong." Sky smiled. Small. Real. Dante looked at her notebook again. "Can I borrow this?" Sky hesitated. "You'll give it back?" "I promise." She handed it over. Briggs was already on the phone. "We need someone at the airstrip, now. Check every vehicle, every logo. I want photos of every maintenance worker's hands." He hung up and looked at Dante. "If she's right about the logo, she's right. Then we've got someone operating under a fake company." Dante stood. "Which means they're still here." Sky spoke quietly from her seat. "They never left." Dante turned. "What?" "They're waiting to see if it worked, if you got on, if you disappeared." She looked out the window at the airstrip. "They're still watching." And for the first time, Dante realized something terrifying. He'd been looking for the enemy outside his circle, but they'd been standing in plain sight the whole time. When people don't listen to you, you learn to watch everything. She's 8 years old, and she saw what a billionaire's entire security team missed, not because she's lucky, because she's been invisible her whole life. And invisible people? They see the truth. If you're still here, you feel it too, don't you? That pull. That need to know what happens when the people in power finally start listening. Here's what I'm asking. If this story matters to you, if Sky's voice matters to you, hit subscribe. Because what comes next isn't just about catching the bad guy. It's about a man realizing he became the very thing that almost destroyed him. Predictable. Deaf. Dangerous. I don't tell stories that fade when you close the tab. I find the ones that change how you see the world. This one's halfway done. And Sky? She's not finished noticing yet. Don't miss what happens next. That night, Dante couldn't sleep. He sat in his study, staring at old files, contracts, emails, meeting notes, searching for the moment he stopped seeing. And then he found it. 5 years ago. A name in an email thread he'd forgotten about. Marcus Chen, Senior Engineer, Safety Division. The subject line read, "Urgent concern regarding hydraulic systems." Dante opened it. The email was detailed, technical, specific. Marcus had identified a flaw in the helicopter's maintenance protocol. Not catastrophic, not immediate, but present. A gap that could be exploited if someone knew where to look. He'd recommended an audit. Dante scrolled to his own response. 4 words. Trust the system. Proceed. He sat back. Marcus had pushed back, sent 2 follow-up emails, both ignored. 3 months later, Marcus left the company. Dante had signed the approval without reading it. He closed his laptop, leaned forward, put his head in his hands. I stopped listening. The words came out like a confession. He thought back to the early days, when he was building the company from nothing. He'd listened to everyone, questioned everything, stayed late to understand the details. But success changed that. The bigger the company grew, the more people handled things for him. The more systems were put in place. The more he trusted the process instead of the people. And somewhere along the way, he stopped paying attention. He became predictable, and predictable men are easy to remove. The next morning, Dante called Kendra. I need you to find someone. Who? Marcus Chen. Used to work in my safety division. Left 5 years ago. What do you need him for? He tried to warn me once. I didn't listen. Silence on the line. I'll find him. 2 days later, Dante sat across from Marcus in a quiet coffee shop. Marcus looked older, tired, but his eyes were sharp. I didn't think I'd hear from you again, Marcus said. I didn't think I'd need to call. Marcus sipped his coffee. But here we are. Dante leaned forward. You tried to tell me something 5 years ago, about the helicopters, about a gap in the system. Marcus nodded slowly. I did. I ignored you. You did. Why didn't you push harder? Marcus set his cup down. I did push, 3 times. You signed off anyway. After that, I realized something. What? You weren't ignoring the problem. You were ignoring me. The words hit like a punch. Marcus continued. You'd built something so big that you couldn't see the details anymore. You trusted the system because you thought the system was you. But systems don't think. They don't adapt. They just repeat. Dante swallowed hard. And I became part of that system. You became the system. Marcus leaned back. When you stop listening, you stop learning. And when you stop learning, you stop seeing threats. You just see patterns. Safe, predictable patterns. That's what they counted on. That's what they always count on. Dante looked down at his hands. Someone almost erased me because I stopped noticing. Marcus didn't argue. Power doesn't make you safer, Dante. It makes you louder. And when you're loud, you stop hearing the quiet voices. Like yours. Like mine. Like that little girl who saved your life. Dante looked up. I can't undo 5 years. No, but you can start listening again. Marcus stood. The flaw I warned you about, it's still there. And now you know someone's willing to use it. He put on his jacket. Fix it. Before someone else doesn't get a warning. And he walked out. Dante sat there alone. The coffee shop hummed with noise around him. But for the first time in years, he heard it clearly. The investigation tightened like a noose. Briggs worked 16-hour days. Kendra pulled financial records going back 7 years. Federal agents interviewed maintenance crews, reviewed contracts, traced payments, and slowly the pieces fell into place. Not with a bang, with clarity. The fake maintenance logo Sky had noticed? It matched a shell company registered 3 years ago, owned by a consulting firm. That firm had one major investor, Vince Mallory, the man with the ring Sky had seen by the fence, former military contractor, hired through a private security agency. That agency had done work for the same consulting firm, also tied to Vince. The device planted in the helicopter, custom built. But the parts were traceable, purchased through a vendor that supplied Dante's own company, approved by Vince. Every thread led back to the same name. No dramatic confession needed, just undeniable clarity. Late one night, Dante stood in his office. The city lights flickered below like stars. Briggs entered quietly. "We have enough." Dante didn't turn around. Enough for what? Enough to arrest him. Enough to prove intent. Enough to dismantle everything he built. Dante nodded slowly. When? Tomorrow morning. Feds want to move before he knows we're coming. He doesn't know yet? No. As far as Vince knows, you're still shaken. Still trusting the system. Still predictable. Dante finally turned. Good. Briggs handed him a folder. This is everything. Payments. Emails. Wire transfers. He planned this for 3 years. Every detail. Every backup. He thought he'd covered it all. Dante opened the folder, scanned the pages, saw his own signature on some of the approvals. His chest tightened. I signed off on half of this. You didn't know. I should have. Briggs didn't argue. Dante closed the folder. Where is he now? Home, with his family. Dante exhaled. Does he have any idea? None. Then tomorrow he wakes up and loses everything. Yes. Silence. Dante walked to the window again. I trusted him. I know. He was at my daughter's birthday party. I know. And he was willing to erase me for money. Briggs stepped beside him. Some people see power and want it. They don't care who's holding it. Dante's jaw tightened. I almost disappeared because I stopped paying attention. But you didn't. Because of Sky. Yeah. Dante looked at Briggs. She saw what I missed. She listened when I stopped listening. She noticed when I stopped noticing. She saved your life. She did more than that. Briggs frowned. What do you mean? Dante turned back to the city. She reminded me what I used to be. Later that night, Dante drove to the airstrip. It was empty. Silent. The helicopter sat under floodlights, still grounded. He walked over to it. Ran his hand along the side. The metal was cold. He thought about how close he'd come. How one decision, one ignored sound, one moment of trust in the system would have erased him. Not killed. Erased. And no one would have known why. Footsteps behind him. He turned. Sky stood there with her mother. They must have been leaving the diner. Hi, Sky said. Hi. She walked closer, looked up at the helicopter. You're not flying it yet. Not yet. Are you scared? Dante thought about it. No, I'm careful. Sky nodded. That's better. Her mother smiled apologetically. We didn't mean to interrupt. You're not interrupting. Sky looked at Dante. Did you find them? The bad people? We did. Good. She paused. The sound was wrong. Dante crouched down to her level. It was. You were right. You didn't hear it at first. No, I didn't. But you hear it now. Dante smiled. Yeah, I hear it now. Sky smiled back. Then she and her mother walked toward the parking lot. Dante stood. The airstrip was quiet again. But this time he was listening. The press conference was scheduled for 10 a.m. News vans lined the street outside Dante's headquarters. Cameras, reporters. Microphones pointed at an empty podium. Inside, Dante stood in front of a mirror. Kendra adjusted his tie. You don't have to do this, she said. We can release a statement. Let the investigators handle the press. Dante shook his head. No. People need to hear it from me. You're opening yourself up to questions, scrutiny. They'll ask why you didn't see it coming. Because I didn't. Kendra stepped back. Admitting that makes you vulnerable. Good, I should be. Briggs entered. Vince was arrested an hour ago. It's already leaking online. Dante nodded. Then let's get ahead of it. At 10 a.m., Dante walked to the podium. The room went silent. Flashes exploded. Cameras clicked. He looked out at the crowd. No script, no teleprompter, just the truth. 5 days ago, I almost got into a helicopter that would have made me disappear. The room tensed. Not crash, not malfunction. Disappear. The device planted in that aircraft was designed to cut all communication, all tracking, all emergency signals. If I'd taken off, no one would have known where I went, and by the time anyone figured it out, I'd be gone. And so would everything I'd built. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Dante continued. The person responsible has been arrested. The evidence is undeniable. This wasn't an accident, it was a plan. Years in the making. By someone I trusted. A reporter shouted a question. Dante raised his hand. I'll get to questions, but first I need to say something. He paused. I didn't stop this. I didn't see it coming. I didn't notice the warning signs. The room went quiet again. A little girl did. He gestured to the side. Sky and her mother stood near the back, half hidden behind security. Sky looked terrified. Dante spoke gently. Her name is Sky. She's 8 years old. She saw men tampering with my helicopter the night before I was supposed to fly. She didn't know who I was. She didn't know what they were doing, but she knew something was wrong, and she ran across an airstrip to warn me. Cameras turned toward Sky. She shrank back. Dante's voice softened. She saved my life. Not because she had power, not because she had money, but because she paid attention when no one else did. He looked directly at the camera. I stopped listening. I stopped noticing. I trusted systems instead of people. I got comfortable, and that almost cost me everything. Silence. Sky didn't have that luxury. She couldn't afford to stop watching, so she didn't. And because of her, I'm standing here. Dante stepped back from the podium. I'll take one question. A reporter stood. Mr. Cross, what do you want people to take away from this? Dante glanced at Sky, then back at the cameras. That the people we ignore are often the ones seeing the truth. After the conference, the building emptied. Dante found Sky sitting on a bench outside with her mother. He sat down beside them. You okay? Sky nodded. That was scary. I know. I'm sorry. It's okay. Her mother squeezed her hand. You did something really brave, baby. Sky looked up at Dante. Are you going to be okay now? Dante smiled. Yeah, because of you. Sky smiled back. Good. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sky spoke again. Quiet. Certain. I didn't want you to die. Dante's throat tightened. I know. That's all. That's enough. Sky leaned against her mother, and for the first time in days, everything felt still. 3 weeks later. The airstrip was quiet again. No news vans, no cameras, no crowds. Just the hum of engines and the wind cutting across the runway. Dante stood near the terminal, hands in his pockets, watching a helicopter lift off in the distance. Not his. He wasn't ready yet. Footsteps behind him. He turned. Sky walked over, notebook tucked under her arm. Hi, Dante said. What are you doing here? Waiting for my mom, same as always. She stood beside him. They watched the helicopter disappear into the sky. Does it still scare you? Sky asked. Dante thought about it. No, but I don't take it for granted anymore. Sky nodded. That's good. They stood in silence. Then Sky spoke again, soft, almost like she was remembering. The sound was wrong. Dante looked down at her. It was. You didn't hear it. No, I didn't. Sky tilted her head. But you hear things now. Dante smiled. Yeah, I do. She opened her notebook, flipped through the pages, stopped on one. It was a drawing of the helicopter, the airstrip, and 2 figures standing beside it. One tall, one small. I drew this, Sky said. For you. She tore the page out carefully and handed it to him. Dante took it. stared at it. Thank you. You're welcome. Sky closed her notebook. My teacher says I still ask too many questions. Dante crouched down to her level. Your teacher's still wrong. Sky grinned. Her mother called from the diner entrance. Sky, time to go. Sky waved, then looked back at Dante. You gonna fly again? Yeah, soon. Good, just listen first. I will. Sky started walking away, then stopped, turned around. Mr. Cross? Yeah? People don't always see you when you're small, but that doesn't mean you're not there. Dante felt his chest tighten. You're right. Sky smiled. I know. And she ran toward her mother. Dante stood slowly, watched them leave. He looked down at the drawing in his hands. 2 figures, standing together. One who almost disappeared. One who refused to let him. Later that evening, Dante sat in his office. The city stretched out below him, lights flickering on as the sun set. He placed Sky's drawing on his desk, right in the center, where he'd see it every single day. Briggs knocked and entered. Contracts are ready for review. New protocols are in place. Systems updated. Marcus is back on the team. We're clean. Dante nodded. Good. Briggs glanced at the drawing. That from the kid? Yeah. She's something. She is. Briggs turned to leave. Oh, one more thing. What? The helicopter. It's cleared. Fully inspected. Ready when you are. Dante looked out the window. I'll fly it tomorrow. You sure? Yeah. Briggs nodded and left. Dante sat alone in the quiet. He thought about everything that had happened, the sound he didn't hear, the voice he almost ignored, the system he trusted too much, the child who saw what he missed, and he realized something. Survival doesn't always come from strength. Sometimes it comes from attention, from the willingness to stop, to listen, to notice the small voice shouting the truth. He picked up his phone, sent a message to Sky's mother. Thank you for raising someone who pays attention. The world needs more people like her. A moment later, a reply came back. She says the sound was wrong, and you finally heard it. Dante smiled, set the phone down, looked at the drawing one more time. The helicopter, the airstrip, the 2 figures, standing together, and he understood. The sound was wrong, but now he was listening. And sometimes that's all it takes to survive. Sometimes survival doesn't come from strength. Sometimes it comes from attention. And sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is ignore the child shouting the truth.